to the Calon Yarns podcast. This is episode 26, I believe. My name is Lynn and I'm coming to you from Cardiff in Wales in the UK. And this is a knitting, crochet, sometimes spinning, sometimes dyeing, but always fibre-based weekly podcast. I usually say fortnightly podcast, but as those of you that have been here for a few times now will know, I'm coming to you weekly at the moment because I am on lockdown in this current situation. So I'm just going to go ahead and say weekly from now on. I think it just makes it a lot easier, and we'll see. So yes, if you are a new viewer, thank you so much for dropping by. I'm really pleased that you're here. I'm glad you found me. And if you are a returning viewer, as always, thank you so much for coming back. I hope you all have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a cold drink, a hot drink, whatever your heart desires, but you have some knitting or crochet, some sort of project on your needles or hooks that you are working on, and hopefully I can keep you some company over the next half an hour or so. Yes, it is Saturday, May the 16th, and I should know that because it was my husband's birthday yesterday, so there we are, finally I actually know the date. And we follow the usual format of finished objects, works in progress, things like that. However, this week is slightly different. There's a couple of reasons. One of them is because work has been really busy this last week, so I haven't got a great deal done. And the other reason is because a few weeks ago, or every now and again, I kind of drop in that I've got a few blankets on the go that I should really look at. And a few people have said, ooh, that would be nice to see what blankets are tucked away. So I was essentially guilted into searching for all my blanket projects and sharing them with you. I feel like this is absolutely the confessions of a blanket starter. But on that note, before we get into the confession bits, and you all realise how many blankets I have on the go, and it was a bit embarrassing really as I went around the house trying to remember where I'd secreted, placed, put in hiding, left for another day project bags, you know, you kind of tuck them down the sides of things. It was like a little treasure hunt in my own home really, so that kept me entertained for a couple of hours thinking, where else might I have left one? So I have found quite a few, and the awful thing is that I've also found quite a few of other projects that aren't blankets that are tucked away. So after this episode, I might have a good stern word with myself and maybe start to work on a couple of them to redeem myself of the guilt of leaving projects unattended in bags dotted around the house. But there we are. What I was going to say was, before I tell you all the blankets that I have, I do finish some blankets. You know, this is one in point. There is one on my daughter's bed. She's still asleep. I'm not going to wake her up to prove it. But this one is just a normal, usual ripple blanket. There's lots and lots of free patterns out there. A ripple blanket that I did in Stylecraft DK. I'm not sure if that's available everywhere, but it's a very popular, it's 100% nylon, but it is a real, very affordable, lovely and soft workhorse yarn, I think. And if you are making blankets to give away to somebody that may not understand the intricacies of superwash or non-superwash yarns, Stylecraft DK is fantastic. They also do an Aran. The colour range is incredible, and it doesn't feel squeakily nylon. Do you know what I mean? You can chuck it in the washing machine and it just comes up beautifully. So that is one that I would absolutely recommend for those of you that are wanting to make blankets and also need to kind of chuck them in the washing machine. So yeah, so I have finished one. I have finished more than one, I promise. But that's not what you're going to see today. There's barely enough room for me on the sofa, to be honest. So yes, I shall get to those projects in a moment. What am I wearing, I hear you ask? As I'm sure you all know, this is the Novelli Tee by Caitlin Hunter, and I think I must have finished it about 18 months or so ago. The yarn that I used is a sock yarn, which originally was a shawl actually, a lovely beaded shawl, and whilst it was lovely, I think it was a crocheted shawl, I just didn't really wear it. It wasn't really me. The blue was me, but the shape really wasn't me, so I took the plunge and ripped it back and made it into the Novelli Tee. It's got a little Colour work edging on the bottom. I'll pop the pattern down below. But yes, a nice, soon to be summer sweater. So, the project. Okay, let's start. Where should we start indeed? Let's start here first, in my basket of goodness. And this is a lovely little tag. There's 5 of us in our little yarn gang, and one of the lovely ladies, Carol's daughter, made us this, the famous 5 little tag for Christmas a couple of years ago now. That's so sweet. Yes, so this is a blanket called Circles in the Square. I didn't follow that pattern, but I did see the pattern and think, oh, that looks really nice, and so therefore that was the inspiration I used. Let me show you what I mean. So these are crochet circles that you turn into a square. I mean, you know, it's not rocket science, is it? The clue is in the title. And what I've done is, I'll pop that down on the floor for a second. I've made lots of these crocheted circles out of little bits of scrap yarn, sock yarn. In fact, I think a few years ago now, I think it was opal sock yarn, they did the tiny little balls of yarn. Do you remember those? I think they were like 10 grams. And I got a couple of bags of those. You could buy them in a big bag. And so I think that's what's gone into, I might have some left in there somewhere. Anyway, that's gone on, what's gone into this mostly. So they're all very, very different colours, as you can see. Some of these are those tiny little yarn balls, but some of them are actual real life leftover sock yarns. But they are all sock yarn, so they've all got a 75–80% fibre, natural fibre, and 20% nylon in all of them. So at least I know that whenever I wash it or whatever, all the yarn is going to behave pretty much the same. And I think that's the key, isn't it? If you're doing scrappy blankets, you want to know that the yarn is going to behave in a similar way when you do wash it, because as it's a blanket, it will need washing. Yes, so circles. Have no idea how many I did, and I think I've just kind of gone for it really. I haven't really followed a pattern at all, just that general increasing as you work in the round to create however many rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 rounds. I think on a 3.25, if I remember rightly. The crochet hook might be somewhere in my bag of bits, but this is the bag of bits I'm working from for the circles. And then I have a solid grey yarn. Excuse the rustling. Am I going to be able to open it now? No, it doesn't want to open. Just a solid grey sock yarn, quite a light grey. I can't open that. It's probably like sealed together. In this light grey, as you can see, which is a sock yarn again, just to turn it into a square. So maybe, shall I show you one that's got a slightly more exaggerated difference? Yeah, maybe this one. So you can see that a little bit more clearly, maybe the circle in the square. They're not perfect squares, but I know that once I kind of attach them all together and do a little edging on them all, it'll work out. And when it's a blanket, it needs to be squishy squashy, so it doesn't really matter that it's not an entirely perfect square. That doesn't bother me at all. I think with crochet, it's a lot more forgiving. There's a lot more judge and fudge that goes along. You see something and you think, oh, that doesn't quite look right, so I'll just add another couple of stitches in there. So this obviously is one that you would have to seam up once you've done all your squares. And I seem to have, you know, I've probably got a blanket's worth. Let's have a look. So this is my stack of circles that need to be turned into squares. This is my stack of squares. So, you know, I'm kind of thinking, yeah, I've probably got enough for a pretty good sized blanket. I've got enough of the grey. I made sure I had lots of the plain grey so that it would all match up. So, yes, I can hear you saying, just get on with it. Just get on with it. Start to put it together. And actually that's probably the closest to a finished object. So yes, you're right. Once I've done a couple of bits and bobs, I might come back to this and start to put it together. Maybe that'll give me the oomph. If I start to put these squares together, I might have the oomph to finish these, and then the double oomph to finish my bits, my bag of bits. Yes, so that is Circles in the Square blanket. Blanket 1 of my works in progress, my UFOs, my shameful confessions, whatever you want to call them. So that's that one. It lives in my little basket. Very lovely indeed. Okay, so should we take a slurp? Okay. I hope you're like this as well. You better be like this as well. You better have blankets tucked away. If not, I feel very, very shameful. Okay, so blanket 2. Now this one I had completely forgotten about. And I've just realised I haven't done a spider check in the bags. I think we'll be alright. Who knows? We shall see. Hopefully no spiders will attack. I'll just be a little bit cautious. So this one I had completely forgotten I had. I was thinking, where else might I have tucked something away? And this is what I found, this little beauty here. So they're mostly crochet blankets actually. I do love a crochet blanket. So this is a crochet granny square. No, granny, how many sides is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't know what that is. It's this shape, yes? Is it 6? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But let's just brush over the maths. So this is a join as you go project, as you can see, because I've made some headway here. A join as you go project that is out of scrap yarns again. But what I've also done, the same with the other blanket, is that I have packaged up stuff that isn't so heavy on the natural fibres. So again, they're all similar bits and bobs. They've all got wool in them, but they're more like a 50-50 maybe. I don't think there's anything in there that's 100% nylon. It's all got little bits of wool in there. And what I did, before I talk about that, I bagged it up into kind of colour shades. These is like the pinks and lilacs in there. And then I did the same with the blues. You can tell I like blue. So there's kind of blues in there. And I've ranged from, they're mostly DK. Some are a couple of bits of Aran in there. It doesn't really matter. And again, this is just a generic made up pattern really. And what you do is you create the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 circles or 4 shapes in the middle, and then the final round where you add the sides, the 6 sides, those are the ones that you crochet into the shape that's already there, the piece that's already there. So I would add one in here, I would do those middle shapes, and then as I added it into the blanket, I would crochet this side together as I'm creating that final round, crochet this side as I'm creating the final round, crochet this side as I'm creating the final round, and do the last 3 edges. Yeah, so again, I don't know why that's just sat there in that bag. It all seems very organised, doesn't it? I've clearly been very organised with my yarn allocation, and if I'm honest, that has probably been there for, it must be 5-6 years. So that one seems like one I want to jump back onto now. That also seems like a nice little project to crack on with. I've tried to make it as random as I can with the colours so that it doesn't seem too kind of dark heavy in one area or light heavy in another. Yes, confession number 2, I think that's on a 4. It feels a little bit looser, so maybe a 4, 4.5 probably, maybe even a 5. That's the problem, isn't it, when you come back to projects, remembering what hook you did them on. And I'm sure I'm always like, oh, you know, I must be really, really careful, and pop a note of paper in there to say what's in them, what hook I did it on. I never do, I never remember. But there we go. So that is number 2. Slurp of tea time. Project number 3 in the Confessions of a Serial Blanket Starter. Now this is a blanket that I bought yarn for. This is not a scrap blanket. And it's a cotton, a mercerized cotton. So it has, is that the right way? Yeah. So this, and I love these colours. What a lovely kind of seascape, blue seas sort of pattern that is. Yeah, I do, I really like it. And it's got that slight sheen to it. And I know that as soon as I block it, it'll really soften up again. This is the Cosy Stripe blanket by Attic 24. If you probably all know, especially those of you that live in the UK, but if you don't, if you haven't come across Attic 24 before, her crochet blankets are absolutely beautiful. I've done so many of hers, and her the way she lays out her patterns are very clear. If you're a new crocheter or a relatively new crocheter, each pattern has a set of pictures attached to it so that you can really see where you should be putting the hook, where you need to increase, how you need to keep your edges nice and straight. So yes, Attic 24, this is the Cosy Stripe blanket. And I was doing it in, I think this was on offer at the time. It's a drops yarn. Excuse me, the dust is coming off them now. It's a drops yarn. It's called Muscat. Let me see, is it gonna? Yeah, Muscat, and it is a DK, but it's a slightly light DK, I would say. Get the old glasses on. It is, yeah, recommended 4mm, 50 grams to 100 meters. So yeah, a DK weight, and it does kind of feel a little bit stiff in the ball, but I know that it will soften up. It's certainly softened up as I've worked it. And I have a good old bag of all these lovely blues, bright blues, and almost lilac-y greys, denim colours. Yeah, so that was bought for that project, and I think I must have bought it to take on holiday, because I tend to work on cotton in the summer, and when we go to visit my dad in France, it's always really boiling over there. Well, it certainly is for a Welsh resident. It's always really boiling over there, so I have to have something cool in the hand. It's really important. So that is done, yeah, I'm pretty sure that will have been done on a 4mm because it feels quite dense, but and a solid texture to it. Yeah, so that's one that maybe we'll revisit this summer. There's plenty there to finish. A lovely sized blanket, and it's quite nice to have a blanket, a cotton blanket, when you're heading to the beach and stuff, because you don't kind of get sticky. So yeah, that one, I think that one will probably sit on the back burner for a little longer, if I'm being honest with you. And I am being honest with you, aren't I? I'm sharing my deepest, darkest blanket shenanigans. So there we go. That was number 3, wasn't it? Yeah, I think we've got 3 more to go. Oh. So confession number 4. You're probably all gone by now, thinking, oh my lord, there's 3 left, I promise. This one I think I have shown you before. I think this is probably my most recent cast on or starter. This is what's this one? Hydrangea, Attic 24 again, the Hydrangea blanket. So this is one that I dyed up myself. We have quite a busy bright duvet cover in our bedroom in these sorts of shades, maybe a little bit more muted than these, but we have a lovely old nursing chair which has definitely seen better days in the bedroom, so we generally throw a blanket over that chair. The blanket that's on there at the moment is a sort of a shop bought blue blanket, but I really wanted to add a blanket in similar colours that I had made myself. So this was going to be one of those crochet alongs that you know, you do so many stripes. I think it was supposed to be 8 stripes a month, and by that, if you'd kept that, it would be finished in a year, you see. I think I did about 3 or 4 months, and then it just kind of got to the bottom of the list. And it's very annoying because the colours are really lovely, and as I say, I dyed them up myself. I think that this is a DK, and I think it's a Polworth DK, so it's got a really a bit of bite to it. It's a little bit rustic. It feels a little bit like it's non-superwash, but it is a superwash. But again, as you work it, it gets softer, and I know that it's going to be a really hard wearing blanket. It's got a nice bit of squishometer is really good. It's got a little bit of a halo. So yes, maybe that's one, but it is quite warm to work on now in these sort of months. So maybe that's, and colours tilt towards autumn. So maybe I'll put that in my knitting diary. Not that I have one, but maybe I should get one to convince myself to keep track on all these projects. Yeah, I think that one is done on a 4.5 hook. The hooks that I use tend to be the Knit Pro ones. These are the ones I like. They've got it's a flat handle, and it's got quite a nice grip to it. It's a bit squishy, but it's not. The ones that are really quite big I find quite difficult to use. So those are the ones I use, or the Prim ones, which are rounder handled ones. These are the Prim ones. But I have to say, these are my favourite. I think they're nice and light as well, and they're really affordable. They're just £3-4 maybe, I think, not much at all. So yes, those are the ones I recommend for them. Gosh, I haven't seen in that. I keep all my crochet hooks on like a little pencil case. I haven't seen in there for a while. Oh dear. Yes, so that's number 4. Slip of tea. Number 5. Which one shall I show you first? I'll leave the knitting one until last. So this one, again, was one that I had completely forgotten about. Excuse the rustling. And it is done, it's a cotton one, but it's a 4-ply. I think, again, I bought this cotton specifically for this project. I have no idea why, but there we go. You go through phases. Sometimes I see some of the choices I made a few years ago, and I think, gosh, I would never buy that now, or choose that colour now even, let alone the yarn base or the project. So it's quite weird coming back to things that you've left on the sidelines for quite some time. So this is in a Sirdar for, oops, I nearly dropped that in my tea then. That would have been good. This is in a Sirdar 4-ply. Oh, cotton 4-ply. This is non-mercerized as far as I can remember. I'll read it myself now. Yep, and it is 100 grams, 100% cotton, yeah, non-mercerized, 335 meters. So a 4-ply there or thereabouts. It's quite a heavy yarn, and this is what I've been doing with that. So I've made, honestly, the time it's taken, I've made all these little squares. See these tiny crochet squares? Why has it got such a long tail on it? What am I doing with my life? How bizarre. With my tea. These tiny little squares. Aren't they neat and delicate? Can you see? Yay. So yeah, I think I might have been planning on doing a cushion cover, because a blanket, can you imagine? These are how many I have. I've got loads in there that I have done. Excuse the rustle. Whites, light blues, again sea themed. And I'm guessing those are really kind of swift, very swift little do them, throw them in a bowl, do them, throw them in a bowl. So I guess they can sort of take the place of socks maybe for those quick little projects. I do fancy a bit of crochet. I haven't crocheted for a while, especially a tacked project, as you can see. So yeah, that's a nice little one for the summer, I think, too, because it is cotton, nice and light, especially if you kind of heading to the park or something. Hopefully we'll be able to do that again one day. Yeah, pattern wise, not a clue. Probably an Attic 24. I think she does quite a lot of little things like this, or who else maybe? Cherry Heart. Is it Cherry Heart? I'll have a little investigate, but I think it's probably an Attic 24 if I'm honest. 3.25 I would imagine for that. It's quite a stiff little texture, especially as it's cotton as well. But yeah, small projects, 3.25. I think it was probably a cushion cover. I can't imagine for one moment that I would be pushing to make a blanket out of those tiny ones, especially putting them together. And I think because they are quite regimented, I think that would have to have a pattern attached. So that takes brain power, doesn't it? To kind of go, right, this is the pattern I'm going to choose and this is what I'm going to do. And I do not have very much of that at the moment. Anyway, so that's that one, cotton 4-ply Sirdar. And then the last blanket to show you, these are all the ones I could find, I promise. I'm not hiding any, I don't think. I'll have to have another look. I think this is it. You'll be glad to know. This is just a knitted one. So, this looks like a contender for a spider in a bag. I hope not. So this is loads and loads of cotton. Mainly 4-ply cottons. Big old bag of colours, cottons, different brands, but they are, ooh, it was fluff, don't panic, it wasn't a spider, it was fluff. Yeah, some kind of different shades, others, these kind of nice solid bright red colours. That's going to take ages to focus. Yeah, mainly solids in there really. These kind of tealy colours, so quite vivid. Not many pastel-y colours in there really. So all I've done with this one, this is on a 4.5mm needle. And like I say, it is mainly 4-ply yarn, so it's got quite a nice loose gauge to it. 4-ply needle, and it's just completely random, changing whenever. Some stripes are longer than others. Some are just a couple of rows, the brighter ones. I've tried to the colours that I don't have much of, I've tried to use sparingly. So like the yellow, for instance, I've only used a couple of times because I know I don't have a great deal of that. Because I think what happens is when you do like a scrappy blanket and you're not following any sort of pattern and you're just shoving your hand into hopefully a non-spider area and grabbing a colour, is that sometimes you can kind of go towards the colours you like the most, and then you sort of end up later on with those colours that maybe you're not so keen on. So trying to keep it as random as possible, trying to just put your hand in the bag and come out with whatever comes next. But what I really love about this, and again this must be 4 or 5 years old, is that it's so soft and squishy. This is an ideal beach blanket because it'll scrub up really small. It's really, really light. Obviously it's got that cotton there. None of those cottons are mercerized, I don't think. So it's got an absorbency to it and a warmth to it, but also can keep you nice and cool. So yeah, I really like the drape of this. And what I'll probably do is crochet around the edge when it's done, you know, when I'm like about 75 or something. Yeah, 4.5mm. These are the carbon needles. I don't know if you've used these from Knit Pro. I really like these. I've got quite a few in my set. They're carbon, obviously, hence the name, and then they've got these little steel tips to them. So they're really lovely, especially for cotton, because the carbon bit is a little bit grabby, but not as grabby as wood. But the tips slide through those stitches really well, so it's a really nice combination, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but cotton can be a bit slippy on metal needles, for me anyway. Yes, so there we go. Dusty, fibre up my nose, no spiders, thank goodness. So yes, that's my little trip down blanket memory lane to all the ones that are on there. And I am inspired, actually, so thank you for nagging me, those of you that have. I am inspired to crack on with them. Specifically, this one, actually. Hexagons? Are they hexagons? You see, you can tell I have an arts background. think so. That's what we'll go with. My hexagons and my circle in the squares. Those are the ones I think. At the moment, what have I got on the needles? I've got 2 pairs of socks and my botanical garden sweater. So I think actually once I get past the yoke of my sweater, I think I've got about 10 rows left of the complicated yoke, and then it's more smaller patterns. So maybe once I've gotten past that bit and I'm on the stocking stitch home straight of the body and then onto the inevitable sleeve island, which I visit regularly these days, then maybe I will come back to these, and hopefully by then work will have calmed down a little bit. Although I work in a university, for those of you that know, and in education it's all crazy at the moment, isn't it? From primary to junior to secondary to higher education. Yes, the unknowns are too huge to know how to deal with COVID and how to get everybody back into the classroom safely. So whilst the teaching for this term might have been finished, we may be stuck into busyness of trying to work out what happens next. However, okay, I'm going to tell you now, that's what I'm going to do. Once I've finished my sweater, I will return to these projects and give them some much needed love and attention. So I think that is it from me really for yarn content. I think that's absolutely enough. I've shamed myself quite enough today, but as always I am very grateful to be able to work from home, to stay home. If you are an NHS worker, thank you so much. If you are a key worker, delivery driver, care worker on the front line, keeping the country going and keeping us all safe and well, thank you so much. But that is all from me this week. Back to normal podcasting next week with projects I have actually been working on. I hope you are keeping safe and well, and that you have some joy in your project, and I will catch up with you very soon. Thank you so much for stopping by, and yeah, diolch pawb. Thank you everyone. Hwyl fawr. Bye.